Howdy folks, we're getting ready to start block 32 card trick, and believe me, this block is tricky, and I'm going to show you some tricks so you can succeed at card trick. So let's go down to the table and we'll get right to it. For card trick, our pattern calls for C4, C9, and our background fabric. We've got 2 pieces of background fabric and 2 pieces of our different colors that are the same size, so by deduction I believe that we can say that we're going to do 4 at a time half square triangles to start out with on these 2. But I want to talk to you real quick about some tricks for success. First off, you want to pick fabrics that are high contrast. And your pattern identifies them as C4. So I'm going to write that on the back right now, C4. This is a friction pin. And C9. Whoops, C9. C9. And anytime I subcut this, I'm going to also put C4 on this, or C9, whichever the case may be, because this block goes together tricky. That's why it's called card trick. So let's go ahead and do one at a time. Go ahead and match them up. But we're just going to do one at a time so that we can keep our colors straight. We're going to do some half square triangles, and then we're going to turn them into quarter square triangles. Some of them will stay as half square triangles. So there's a whole process here. So I'm going to start with step 1, which is to make our half square triangles. So I'm going to do that in time lapse because by now you should know how to do that. If by chance you're clicking on this video just because you want to see how to do card trick, you can either go back and watch some of the previous videos, or maybe the last 5 or 6 videos, and we talk about this method, the 4 at a time half square triangle method, more in depth. But to recap, you place your 2 squares right sides together. You sew around the outside edge of the square. Then you cut from corner to corner both directions, diagonally. And that gives you 4 half square triangles. And you'll see what I mean later on as we progress. But once we get those half square triangles, I can't do that with this, but anyway, then we'll add our solid pieces to get our quarter square triangles. So I'm getting ahead of myself. Let's put this on time lapse, and we're going to do both of them, but then before I cut them, I'm going to mark each corner so that we don't get confused. So let's get to it. I thought I was recording, but I forgot to click the button, the record button. So I've already sewn around all 4 corners and marked all 4 corners with the block, or the color C4 and C9. I pressed it first so that the seams are set. Now I'm getting ready to cut them on the diagonal, and I'm leaving my labels up here with the colors so that I know I don't get confused which one's which. And I also, like I said, made sure I have highly contrasting fabric. So I'm going to, now you can mark these with the ruler. I'll do one way and one the other way, and that way I won't confuse anyone. Let me find my ruler. Okay, you can use your rotary cutter and ruler to cut this, or you can use scissors. I'm going to use scissors. And you cut on the line. Those of you that have been working clear through the series know all this. But just in case we have somebody here that this is their first time, I'm going into full detail. By cutting on those lines, we now have half square triangles. And let's see, the pattern says to press seams open. Okay, so we're going to be pressing all the seams open. I'm just going to finger press because I don't want to lose my mark. Okay, that's that step. Now I've moved this back in that line so that I know so far I've not confused myself. Not saying that it's not going to be that way all the way through, but this is, like I said, a confusing block. But if you can try to stay ahead of it all the way through, then that makes a big difference. Okay, this method of cutting, I don't mark anything, I just fold. And I'm first cutting on this diagonal, and then I take each piece and fold that in half, and I hold the longest piece like this in my hand, and then I put my scissors right here in the fold, and because of the way I've got it held, it's going to cut just right. For me, this is the most accurate way to cut. Mostly because this is the way I learned to do back when we didn't have rotary cutters and rulers and all that fancy stuff. And once again, we're going to be pressing on pressing seams open. Okay, I'm going to finish doing that. Once again, I've got this, keeping this right where it belongs. And I'm going to do the rest of this off camera. The pressing seams open, trimming the blocks, and then I'll be back with you to show you the next step. So we just finished step 1 and 2. 1 was sewing around the outside edge of both of the 2 squares. Step 2 was cutting on the diagonal. So step 3 would be pressing seams open. The instructions said to trim these to what the pattern calls for, which I did, and since I was going to trim, I went ahead and pressed the squares and made sure that I still have the identification on each of the back of each of the squares. And then as I was reading that, I noticed, okay, the instructions say to make like a broken dishes block, and I didn't have enough of the squares to do that and to do the step after that. So I got to reading and I had not cut enough squares. So I have cut those squares now, and what we do with these, right sides together, and we draw a line diagonally and we sew on either side of the line. We're going to make half square triangles 2 at a time method, and I'm not going to mark the colors yet because I'm going to have to press the seams open. But I've also have a scrap of the C9 fabric that I pulled out of the trash up with the label, and that will help me also. So that's another trick that you can do, is just put a piece of scrap next to your label, and that'll help you to keep track of which scrap is which, or fabric is which. So we're going to go ahead and sew on either side of the line. Now I'm going to cut on the line, and then I'm going to press the seams open, and then we will put them opposite sides like this, and then we'll sew right down the middle. We need one of these, so that means that they only want us to sew on the line going this direction. So let me pause you while I press and get back in a minute. I pressed them and then I trimmed the dog ears off. So now I'm going to place them right sides together, making sure that the seams are matched up. Okay, now I'm going to draw I'm going to sew on either side of the line. After rereading the instructions, I saw that I needed to make the one at a time method, not the two at a time. So I sewed just a hair on the other side of the line. Then I folded and pressed and to decide which side looked the best. This one's off, this side is off just a little bit, so I'm going to use this side, which means that I will cut on this side of the line. So let's do that. Now I need to trim this up to what the pattern calls for. My problem is the print is very small in this book, and for my old eyes, I have a hard time seeing that. I am using my magnifying glass, but I still miss things. So I double check. I apologize for the confusion. Okay. This will be trimmed down to the size of these other squares. Now, I've got this laid out the way it's supposed to be, but I haven't got anything sewn together yet because I wanted to test to make sure I had my solid pieces going the right direction. So I just have them pinned together, then I put them in place to make sure they were right. So now that I know that they're right, I can go ahead and sew them together. This is another trick. And I will sew on the fold. And I'll sew just a hair to the left of the fold. My left thumb is on the pin. That's the side that I'm going to sew a slant 1/4 inch my thumb is on the pin. Yeah, I'm going to take these off in the order that I sewed them on, and if you noticed, or you might not have, I started here, so this one goes here, this one will go here, this one will go here, and this one will go here. So I'm going to take one at a time. Before I cut them, I'm going to determine which side needs to be cut by pinning it back in place. Okay, so now I know which side needs to be cut. So I'm going to trim each, I'll start right where I started here. I'm going to fold it down like this, pick up this corner, turn it because I'm right-handed, and I'm going to trim just take your time. The one thing to remember is that the white on these split quarter square triangles points down, out toward the outside on each one. And the color of the half, or the quarter, goes toward the color of the one next to it. The colors go next to each other. Ooh, hot. So I'm going to go ahead and finish this whole process, and then we'll start sewing them together. So I know I want it to look like this, so I'm going to fold it like that, and I'm going to cut here. So I'm going to grab the part that I want to save. It's going to be on my left, so I can cut with my right. If you're left-handed, you'll do it just the opposite. And I will press these seams open. Once you have this right, all you have to remember is the white goes toward the outside. So this is what I want to save. With my left hand, I hold that part and I cut with my right. I couldn't see. Once again, all I had to do was remember that the white goes toward the outside. Okay, this is what I want to keep. Fold this down. Hold it with my left hand. Cut with my right. There we go. So now all we have to do is do our chain sewing like we've done in all the previous blocks. Just be sure to keep everything oriented the right direction. And we are just about there. Okay, we're going to put right sides together. We're going to match up seams. I'm going to pin these so that I don't get confused. If you don't need to pin, then don't worry about it, but since this is a confusing block, okay. Now I can tell that this seam is off because it's not meeting up right. See how these meet? So I inspected it and I see that it slipped back here, so I'm going to start right about here and rip from here up so that I can straighten that seam. where it's supposed to be. So now I'm going to press these seams open and then sew them back together, sew each of the rows together, which you know how to do that. Just make sure your seams match up, and then I'm going to trim it, and I'll be back to show you what it looks like. Well, there you have it. Card trick. Well, that's it for today. So I'm going to say, be blessed, less stressed, and pet some fabric today. See you later.